Putting is one of the toughest aspects of disc golf. So it's always really nice being able to find a putting tool that can help you improve and save strokes on the green. Hey everybody, what is up? It's Antonio. Welcome to episode 25 of Teach Play Disc Golf, a Gladiator Disc Golf podcast. I am so excited to have you with me here today. I have a lot of fun things planned for this week's episode, and I cannot wait to get to it all. We are going to be talking about a new putting product out on the market. It came out about a month or so ago, and I finally got my hands on one. It's the Champcap Solo by Putt Confidently. After that, we have a disc review this week. Yes, I am so sorry for the last couple weeks without a disc review, but as you can see behind me, if you're watching the video, we are reviewing the Innova Alien. I have a lot of fun thoughts about this disc. After that, we will recap DGLO, Discraft Great Lakes Open. We will recap it. I have a lot to share about DGLO, so I'm very excited to go over that tournament with you. And then we have some upcoming tournaments that I'll talk about, just for a minute or so. There's not a whole lot for me to say about that. And then that will be the entire episode. So without further ado, let's get into our disc golf skill. So this week's disc golf skill is sponsored by Putt Confidently. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the Champcap Solo. And I have some very cool things to share with you guys. So several months ago, I became sponsored by Putt Confidently after trying out their Champcap. And I gotta say, I was really impressed with the Champcap. It had been out for a while, but I'd never really been able to work with one myself. But as cool as I found it, there were some, not so much obvious, but there were some perceptions or beliefs about the Champcap itself that maybe limited or discouraged some people from actually buying it. The main thing being that it sits over the entire basket, and that it takes a little bit of time to set up. Now, if you do it regularly on and off, you can get pretty quick at it, get it up in 2 to 3 minutes. But when you maybe only have 30 minutes and you got to stop putting to put the Champcap on or stop putting to take it off, that can really cut into your practice time. And I am so grateful that Putt Confidently heard these reviews and just heard these public opinions about it, because they came out with the Solo. Now, the Solo is a very cool product because basically it sits on one side of the basket. Actually, not even a full side. I would say about a third to a quarter of the basket. All right. And so basically the Champcap Solo is a quarter of the Champcap itself. It is only one ring, and it's the 12-inch diameter ring, and it's held on completely with the Putt Confidently bungees. So you have 5 or 6 on the bottom, and then depending on the specific home basket you have a bunch of rings up top, and anywhere from 4 to 7 rings up top to hook it on with the bungees to the top of your basket. And so it's a little tedious to do the bungees, but here's the thing about the Champcap Solo that I was really impressed. Once you have it on, you really don't have to take it off. It really only sits on about a third to a quarter of the basket itself, which means it leaves the rest of your basket completely bare, so you can get some open putting practice that way, while then walking around or just rotating your basket depending on your putting setup to be able to work with the Champcap itself. However, the ring itself is only 12 inches. Now, is it possible? This is just, not even foreshadowing, but possible predictions. Is it possible that they will come out with solos that have smaller rings like the big Champcap does? It's possible. But at the same time, it's one of those to me where it's like, why would you buy a bunch of Champcap solos with different size rings when you can just buy the Champcap itself, the big one, the one that sits over the top? and use that. So I think they have two really great products, but specifically the Champcap Solo, I've been really happy with. I only got it, just a few days ago, so I haven't had a ton of time to work with it. But in the time that I've used it, I have so appreciated the minimal distractions and setup. I literally put it together a few days ago, and then when I went to go practice and just put on it for a little bit this afternoon, it was so nice not having to take the champ cap off, put it back on. I could just take my basket out, do a few putts, spin it around, do a few more putts with the champ cap itself, and then go back to the bare basket. So it really minimized distractions, and it completely eliminated the setup time. The nice thing, and I haven't tested this out personally, but I've seen people do this, is with the Champcap Solo, you actually have a lot of variability in your putts. So basically what I mean is, since it sits on only part of the basket, depending on the angle at which you are facing your basket, you can still work on your hyzer putts and your anhyzer putts using both the ring and the edge of the champ cap itself, because depending how you are, once again, looking at the basket, I'm looking at my basket right here for those of you on YouTube watching the video. I mean, depending on how I'm looking at it, going through the ring is not my focus maybe for my hyzer practice, going to the bare side of the basket. And so I can just kind of angle myself to putt around the exterior of the Champcap Solo. And so obviously then you have your elevation putts that you can work on if you have elevation around you to be working on that. That's not going to change anything from just the traditional Champcap, but you have this flexibility to use the bare basket to your advantage to work on these things while honing in your confidence, your focus, and your accuracy with the Champcap Solo. So I've been really happy with my experiences so far, and just seeing it on my basket, knowing that I can go an entire practice session without using it, or I can use it as the only tool that I want to use. And if I really wanted to dial in my accuracy, I could just pop the Champcap. I haven't tested this yet, but I'm fairly certain, based on just looking at it right now, I think the big Champcap would actually sit right over it. I would just align the 12-inch squares. It might be kind of like a double rim in basketball, but honestly, that wouldn't bother me too much, because when I'm using the Champcap, I like to really focus on the smaller rings anyway. And so it could literally just sit right over the Solo if I wanted to, and then I would just bungee cord it down real quick. So I have really enjoyed it. I have a lot more that I want to do to work with it and get familiar with it, but I just wanted to give you some of my initial thoughts. I'm sure in the future I will bring it up again and share some more insightful analysis and basically just how it's affected my game. But I will say that the delivery package is significantly smaller. And so if you're traveling, you say, okay, I'm traveling, I'm going to go see a friend, or I'm going somewhere where there's going to be a disc golf basket, I can't bring mine. You can just pack up the Solo right into your luggage. It doesn't take up any space at all. It's like a 6x6 square when you fold it up, and it's super thin, only like a 1/2 inch thick when you fold it up and kind of smush it. So it doesn't take up a lot of space. The bungees will take up a little bit of space because they have a hard bead on them. But other than that, you can easily travel with it. It's easy to store if you're not using it. And so the best part, and I haven't even mentioned this yet, the best part about the Champcap Solo is that it is very much a great entry-level putting tool in Putt Confidently's lineup. One of the biggest, I think, detractors for some people to get the Champcap itself is that it was an $80 or $90 investment. And the Champcap Solo is half that price. And so you have a ton of flexibility with it, a ton of different options to use, and it's a much lower entry point. It's oh man, I'm forgetting now off the top of my head, but I think like after taxes and everything, I think it was like $40, $42 after taxes. No, it was $47 after like taxes and shipping. So it's a lot less. So it's, in the 35 to 39 mark, I think, on Amazon. And so it's way lower price point. And so I think a lot of people who were a little hesitant about getting the Champcap, I think you'll really like the Solo. You're going to find that it can work for your game and your putting practice a whole lot better. So if you want to check out the Champcap Solo, you can go to Amazon, or you can help me out a little bit. Remember, I mentioned I'm sponsored by them. I have a link in the description, and when you click on that link to go to their website, you support me quite literally with a little bit of a kickback. By using that link, you support me and everything I'm trying to do by helping to teach people how to play disc golf and growing the disc golf community and helping people just learn more about it. So I would really appreciate it if you use the link below, but I won't be upset if you go to Amazon either. I totally understand. So I just wanted to bring that up and talk to you about that. We do have a little bit of another disc golf skill that we're going to talk about later in the episode, but I wanted to share my thoughts because I said a couple days ago on Instagram that I would review the Champcap Solo for everyone to give you some insight. So those are my initial thoughts on it. I will definitely come back in the future with a little bit more insight and a little bit more experience with it. But these kinds of things take time, but those are my initial thoughts. So I hope you found that helpful. And if you did, make sure you go ahead and check it out and use the link in the description, whether you're on Spotify or Apple or YouTube. Go ahead and check it out. Now I want to have a little bit more serious of a message here. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that earlier today, the day I'm recording this, that is not the day I'm posting it, I shared a reel and some information on Instagram. As you know, the island of Maui has been devastated by wildfires. 11,000 people have been displaced on the island of Maui, specifically in Lahaina. 115, as of this recording, are reported dead. 850 people are still missing. And there's been over $5.5 billion worth of damages. And I know, why are we talking about Maui in a disc golf podcast? Well, I'll just get right to it. There is a Maui Strong Fun going on, and so many people around the globe have donated money to help these people in need. And I want the Gladiator disc golf community, the disc golf community as a whole, to do the same. So I designed 2 t-shirts with slightly different graphics on them in support of Maui Strong. And if you buy one of those shirts, all proceeds from the shirt, I am keeping absolutely zero profit. Every single penny of the proceeds will go directly to the Maui Strong Fun, in part with everybody else who orders one, together on behalf of Gladiator Disc Golf, and we will donate and we will send money to those in need. We know that they desperately need it. And so I have 2 different designs, slightly different designs. You can order them. Please order them or consider ordering so that we can help those in need. The shirts are available at my website, link in the description. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually, I'll have the products listed below the video and you can order directly from YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, that's okay. You can go to my Instagram and you can order directly from Instagram or click the link in the description to my website. It would mean so much to me, but I know it would mean so much more to the people on Maui who are hurt and devastated and have lost loved ones. I actually know some people who have been affected by these traumatic events, and I hope that we can all send some money to them to help them in their time of need. Thank you so much for supporting me in this endeavor as we go to support others and help them as much as we can. So thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you listening to that, and I hope that you will consider ordering a t-shirt. Okay, there's really no easy way to transition from something like that. I appreciate you listening to to that self-imposed ad as we try to help these people in need. So we will just naturally transition as much as we can into our disc review for this week's episode. The disc review is sponsored by OTB Discs, like it is every week. Thank you, OTB, for sending me the disc that we'll be reviewing today, the Innova Alien. If you want to get an Alien yourself or any other disc, head to otbdiscs.com and use discount code GLADIATORDG to save on shipping. Now, the Innova Alien is a super unique disc. It is 4-speed, 2-glide, yes, you heard me correctly, 2-glide, 0 turn, and 1 fade. Now, what's very cool about the Alien is that it is the only other disc in the Innova lineup besides the Sonic that has this sort of dome top. Not so much dome top, excuse me. It is a little domey, but it has almost like the Ultimate Frisbee rings. So it has the same top as the Sonic, as I'm on the video comparing the two here. It has the exact same top as the Sonic, but the bottom is much different. The Sonic has more of an Ultimate Frisbee shape, and the Alien has more of a fast putter, slow mid-range bottom with a slight micro bead, but it's not super overstable. It only has about 1 fade, whereas the Sonic is like -2 or 3 turn and 0 or 1 fade, so a much flippier disc. So the Alien is not nearly as flippy, even though it has the Sonic top, and even though it has some good dome. This disc, I mean, unless you can throw it really, really far, it's not going to glide as much as you would expect after hearing that kind of dome. And I think it just has to do with the shallow rim. That little pocket of air that gets under it isn't going to keep it necessarily aloft nearly as long. However, you can still get some really good distance with this. So it has a little bit of a beveled bottom, far less glide than the Sonic. You know, like some of these slower discs, you can tell when they have a lot of glide because even when it feels like they're moving slow, they just stay in the air. The moment the Alien starts to slow down, it really drops. And that's where you see the low glide really come into effect. Obviously, coming right out of your hand, it's going to fly pretty good. It's going to have good glide, so to speak. But as it starts to slow down, you can kind of see the disc struggling to stay up. And so if you are looking for a fast putter, slow mid-range with low glide and not a lot of left to right movement, the Alien might be something that you're interested in. And here's why. It feels weird, or you would think it feels weird, but then you go and put it in your hand, and unless you put your finger on the pop top part of the Sonic top, if you just keep your finger on the ridge lines, the thumb track, it really feels like a slow mid-range in the hand. It does not at all feel super awkward unless you go and put your thumb on top of the flight plate. And so it looks like it would feel weird in your hand, but it feels pretty normal actually, which I think is going to surprise a lot of people when they go to throw it. The other thing that surprised me when I took it out to the field is that following the same basics, as long as you keep your fingers off the raised lid part of the flight plate, this also forehands pretty well. I have it in Star Plastic and Nexus Plastic. And a couple things I noticed is, I will say the Nexus here, I'm looking at the weights, is a little heavier. But I found the Nexus to actually be more overstable than the Star Plastic, which to me is pretty shocking. As I'm holding them now, I do feel the weight difference, so that could be part of it. When I was throwing it, I did not even pay attention to the weights. I was just like, oh wow, Star is a little flippier. This Alien says 179, which for Innova could mean that it's 177 or 182. And then the Star is listed as 173 to 175, which feels about right. This Alien definitely feels heavier, or it could just be like the feeling of the denser plastic, so to speak. It feels a little more rigid, but I found the Nexus to be slightly more overstable, not at all beefy, not anything like a Toro, which is similar flight numbers except for the fade, or even a Rock 3. But I would say the Nexus probably had about 2 fade, whereas the Star had about that 0.5 to 1. I would say the flight numbers for the Star are fairly accurate. I will say, as fun as this disc was to throw and as interesting as it is, that's pretty much all I feel about it. It's interesting to throw. It's interesting to kind of toss around with people. You could probably still have it as a fairly easy catch disc, similar to the Sonic, but I don't know that I would actually ever bag the Alien. And there's I wrote down here a couple reasons for that. I would in this slot, right? I would throw the Bullet, which is slower and a little bit more glide, or the Mustang, which is faster and more glide, but at a slower speed, I can kind of get a little bit more controlled flight. Same with the Bullet. And I just feel like if I had Mustang, Alien, Bullet, it'd be really hard to decide what I wanted to throw. Along with either an armadillo or a glitch in the bag, it would just really overlap a lot. And I am a fan of layering discs, not complicating my bag. And so having too many molds that would do similar things is just not my style preference. That being said, I do think because of the low glide, it could be really great for approach shots when you're trying to get near the basket or throwing off the tee on a fairly short hole, because you're not going to really run the risk of gliding too far past the basket as long as you have good power control. That being said, I would prefer throwing a Berg or a Armadillo, or for some of you throwing an Innova Pig, discs that aren't going to glide as much. I think the disc, the Alien, is really cool for the novelty of it. I just don't know how many people are actually going to throw it, because I think there's a lot of discs that can quasi fit that slot. And, you know, this is not as overstable as a Zone, so it's definitely not going to take the place of the Toro or the Zone or the Harp or anything like that, or the Tactic. I actually do think the Sonic is better. I think it flies better. I think because it's significantly flippier, and so I think it has a little bit. It's easier to find a slot in the bag for the Sonic, in my opinion, than the Alien, because you don't have a ton of discs, in my opinion, that are this slow and can turn this much with just being thrown flat. Most putters are going to be neutral to overstable. There are some understable putters out there, but a lot of times players will take their neutral or overstable putters and beat them in. They won't really invest in an understable putter, so there's not, from my perspective, the last several years, not a huge market for understable putters. But the Sonic is so unique and is a great transitionary disc for Ultimate Frisbee players, and just anyone who wants something that's super flippy. It works a lot better for that. And so I think the Sonic will remain more popular than the Alien, but I think the Alien is really cool. And actually, come to think of it, the profile of it does kind of look like a UFO now that I'm looking at it. And that could be why they called it the Alien. I didn't actually look on Innova's page to see why they called it that, but that could be why. So that is the Innova Alien. If you want to get the Innova Alien in DX, Nexus, or Star Plastic, head to otbdiscs.com, use discount code GLADIATORDG and save on shipping, and get yourself a pretty cool disc. It is pretty cool. I just don't know that I will throw it, and I don't know how many other people will actually bag it, but I will definitely bring it for friends and everyone to try out, because it's a super unique disc. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about what an awesome weekend of disc golf we had. I am so excited to recap the Discraft Great Lakes Open. Let's go ahead and let's start with FPO. From wire to wire, start to finish, Ohn Scoggins dominated. She had 3 straight rounds of 7 under par. We're talking about rounds where the next player maybe shot 3 under or 5 under, and she was absolutely dominating the first 3 rounds. She didn't make a lot of mistakes. If I remember correctly from Statmando, I'm fairly certain that over the course of the entire weekend, Ohn did not birdie a single par 3, I believe. She got all her birdies on par 4s, and so there are a ton of par 4s on that course. But I don't think she birdied, or if she did, it was very, very few. But Ohn took advantage of a lot of mistakes that a lot of other players make. And this is the other disc golf skill that I referenced earlier that we're going to talk about once we cover MPO as well. She didn't make a lot of mistakes. She didn't try to do too much. And she played very clean rounds. That being said, I believe she only won by 3 or 4 strokes, which means that Ella Hansen almost came back. Ella shot, I believe, an 8 under final round, and Ohn only shot a 3 or 4 under final round. So She was a little slower with her scoring on the final day, but that is okay because she set herself up for success. And it was just so cool to see Ohn Scoggins get her first Elite Series win after finishing on the podium, I think I saw 15 times. I mean, you want to talk about something that can be so discouraging is watching someone else lift the trophy, watching someone else win 15 times when you were only a handful of strokes behind. Now, granted, that coincides perfectly with Kristin Tattar's dominance over the last 2 seasons. And so it's also fairly understandable to see why she finished on the podium 15 times and didn't win half of those times, because I didn't look at all numbers, but Ohn has gotten second a lot. And it's normally behind Kristin Tattar. And so all those tournaments, if Kristin wasn't there, that Ohn got second. I would bet this would be like Ohn's 6th or 7th win over the last 2 years at a minimum. She has been playing so consistently. I will say, this goes for MPO as well. The course was very cool. I liked a lot of the changes they made, but by far the biggest change that I liked was switching pin positions in between rounds. I know some of the pros maybe didn't love it because they couldn't really get certain holes dialed in and learned, but I think it made it so much more fun for scoring. It really changed the way the course played on a couple holes. And I also just really liked how the players had to adapt. I think Friday was the windiest day, and I think the pins were in the long position on that day. So players had to really weigh risk to reward what they were going to do on some of those longer par 4s. So it was very cool. I liked the balance of it. And I think, they'll continue to change things in the future. But at least as far as switching the pins go, I might be in the minority here, but I actually really enjoyed that aspect of DGLO. And then on the MPO side, there was a couple moments in the 3rd and even 4th round where it felt like anyone could win at any point. Now, as the 4th round continued, Simon really started to assert himself as the leader. But here's the thing. Mathematically, Simon was nearly out of contention after round 2. He finished the weekend at 30 under. Simon shot 9 under the first 2 days. So going into day 3, he was at 9 under. The reason he won is because Saturday and Sunday, he shot a combined 21 under par. I mean, you ever shoot 21 under par in 2 rounds, you're probably going to win. But on a 4-round event, it could almost feel like that may not be enough, but it was enough. 21 under par at this course specifically was so tough. This course was challenging because of the elements, because of the elevation. It was hot, it was windy, there was a lot of uphill, downhill throws. The course is long and it's over the span of 4 days. And so fatigue really starts to kick in. And so to shoot your hottest rounds on the final 2 days says a lot to Simon's resilience and focus and ability to perform under pressure. And just he never gave up. He was playing so well. So it was really cool. I will say Eagle showed some great resolve, but about halfway through the 4th and final round, we saw Eagle having to take some crazy lines, or almost what we would call Simon lines, because he had to try and cut it close to try and snag an eagle on a par 4. Or if Simon made a mistake here, trying to take advantage of it. But what actually happened a lot is either they both made mistakes on a hole, or Eagle made a mistake and then Simon executed. And so Eagle was never really in a position to take advantage of Simon's mistakes, because when that typically happened, Eagle also made a mistake. So that being said, I think one of the other coolest things is Calvin Heimberg. I don't know if you guys watched Jomez, but they showed this, or if you paid attention to live. I promise the numbers I'm about to say you are hearing correctly. In 5 holes, Calvin went 7 under par. He went eagle, birdie, 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 eagle. And neither of the eagles were close, like in distance. The first eagle, I believe Jomez said it was 276 feet away. The second eagle was even further at 297 feet away. These were field aces, basically. Okay? These were field aces, and they were beautiful throws, and he was just feeling it. I mean, to go 7 under par in 5 holes after the first 6 holes or something, Calvin was only like 1 under. He was skyrocketing up the leaderboard. He eventually would, cool off, as you would expect, because it is so difficult to maintain that. Because I'm pretty sure there were only 2 eagles earlier in the weekend, and then he doubled that on the final day by himself in the same round within 5 holes. Absolutely insane. If you haven't watched final round coverage on Jomez or seen Calvin's Eagles, you need to go watch that. It was so cool to watch. I was just blown away sitting there on TV watching. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, that is incredible to be doing. And, getting an eagle is hard enough, but to do it with all that pressure, just insane stuff. But anyway, back to lead cards. Simon played so smart the entire weekend, but especially the final 2 days. And it has resulted in him winning 6 Elite Series events, or Elite and Silver Series Disc Golf Pro Tour events, over the last 2 seasons. He is number 1 in wins on the Pro Tour in the last 2 seasons. He has the most victories. That says a lot. And here is where that quick second disc golf tip I wanted to talk about. If there's anything that we have learned from watching Simon over the last 2 seasons and Own for the last several seasons that she's come back on tour, it's that smart golf is better than aggressive golf for long-term success. Okay? Both of these players got to where they are today after playing smart golf for 2+ years. Own having double-digit podium finishes, even though she just finally got her first win, double-digit podium finishes. Simon getting 6 Pro Tour wins in 2 seasons. You don't get there without playing smart over and over and over. Are there going to be events where someone gets on a hot streak and takes a victory from you? Yes. But if you're always in contention, and this goes for the same with someone like Calvin Heimberg, you will eventually start notching those victories more often than not. So the tip that I want to talk about is playing the smart controlled shot leads to victory and consistency. But here's the thing about that smart controlled shot. You have to make it a habit. And I know a couple years ago, Simon did a video with Paul where they switched lines. They called each other's line for the other. And all of a sudden, Simon was like, wow, playing Paul's game makes disc golf so much easier. And I think that was when the switch started to flip. And he really began to realize, hey, if I start doing this more and more and more, I'm going to play better and win better, and disc golf's going to be more fun. Because for a time there, Simon was really struggling emotionally with disc golf and being able to stay mentally focused and prepared because he was just having such a hard time. And I think slowing things down, playing the smart shot really helped. So that being said, don't go for the Simon line. Don't go for the hero shot. Yes, there's a time and place. We saw Eagle do this in the final round. There is a time and place when you need to go for the hero shot. But for most players, you do not need to go for the hero shot. Play the smart, conservative shot that's going to lead to the best results most of the time. Also, stop trying to birdie every hole. Okay? If you go to a course and say, I'm going to shoot 18 under, you're always going to leave disappointed. It is so hard, no matter how easy the course might be, so hard to shoot 18 under because it is perfection in a sense. And so that is really tough. So not to lower your expectations by saying it's not possible for you, but it's hard to mentally prepare and feel competitive when you set your expectations so exponentially high that you are never going to achieve them, especially if you average 4 or 6 under par at a course. To try and shoot 18 under par, you're probably getting 9 birdies, but 3 bogeys because you're going for some hero shots that you don't need to. So don't go for the hero shot and get out of the mindset that you need to birdie every hole. And then don't forget, play to your strengths. There comes a time where maybe your strength is not what the hole is calling for, and you have to decide, am I going to throw the shot that will be most successful on the hole, or am I going to throw what I'm most comfortable with and feel like I can execute better? And there's a lot of nuance in there that you will have to figure out for yourself because every player is different. But play to your strengths. Owen Scoggins is an excellent example of this. Owen does not have a lot of power whatsoever, but yet she had so many birdies, she shot so cleanly because she said, okay, this is a par 4. I'm not going to be able to get all the way up there to have a super short approach for a birdie or maybe a throw and eagle, but I can break this hole up into 2 throws and either take a par and never be at risk of a bogey, or I might be able to get close enough and make my birdie putt. She had, I think, 100% C1X putting going to the final round, and I think finished the weekend with like 92%. So Owen broke up the holes and played to her strengths. Staying inbounds and out of trouble does more for your score than birdies ever will. And there's a reason for this. Birdies are great, but if you're trying to go for the birdie every single time, you're going to run into trouble by taking some lines and throwing some shots that you don't need to, which means you'll often find yourself going OB in some awkward positions because you're trying to accomplish too much with a throw. But if you stay in bounds and you stay out of trouble by playing to your strengths and breaking the hole up, you will be able to really have a better score than if you're just trying to birdie everything. And so stay in bounds and staying out of trouble will benefit your score more, especially in the long run, than getting a bunch of birdies this one round. And then the next time you go, you don't get those birdies because you're playing too aggressively. And then the final thing, I've kind of already mentioned this. I kind of went out of order here on my list, but breaking down the holes into easy throws, not biting off more than you can chew. This is super important. It's also honestly probably the hardest thing to do in a tournament. See, in a tournament, you're going to have players who can throw maybe a lot further than you, and you're going to see them take a distance driver and take a line that you didn't even know existed. You'll be like, oh, I want to try that. No, don't. Not if you're trying to win, not if you're trying to compete. It's different if you're just having a fun, casual round with some friends. But don't get off your game plan. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Otherwise, it's going to start to bleed into other areas of your game. You're going to say, hey, I accomplished this throw. Let me run this 80-foot putt. And then all of a sudden it goes OB, or you have a long 40-foot comebacker. And instead of laying up for the par and being able to walk away with a good score, you end up taking a bogey. So all of these things play into each other. So play the smart, controlled shot, because if there's anything we've learned from Simon over the years and from Owen recently, it's that is going to lead to the most success, not just for victories and wins in tournaments, but also for repeatable success in your form and in your disc golf scores. And that is where you're going to have more fun and you're going to have more accomplishments and successes than if you're just trying to do all these other, wild and crazy things on the disc golf course. Now, that being said, some of you listening to this might just play for fun, and that is totally okay. If you're not worried about score, if you don't play in tournaments and you want to take the hero shot, that is totally fine. I'm not saying you can't do that. But this tip in particular is for players who are looking to compete regularly and improve their finishes at tournaments and win tournaments. You really want to dial in that conservative play, knowing that you have the ability to play aggressive when you need to, but not doing that all the time. Okay, so that is DGLO. Like I said, I had quite a bit to share about DGLO, and now we will end that conversation. I forgot to get it pulled up here. We will end that conversation by reviewing and going over the final results. So on, there we go. On MPO, we had Simon Lizotte at -30. Eagle McMahon in second place at -27. Tied for third, Chris Dickerson and Cole Redolin at -25. Tied for fifth, Calvin Heimberg and Kevin Jones at -24. Seventh place, Isaac Robinson at -20. Eighth place, Ricky Wysocki, -19. Ninth place, Anthony Barella at -18. And then 10th place, we had a tie of Jake Hebenheimer and Yannon Burr at -17. So you can see 2nd to 10th place is a 10-stroke difference. Simon beat 10th place by 13 strokes. That -21 over the last 2 days really benefited him. Then on the FPO, we had Ons Scoggins at -25. She did not win by 3 strokes. She won by 2. It was a little bit closer. Ella Hansen in second at -23. Kat Murch in third at -18. Missy Gannon and Holland Hanley in fourth at -15. We didn't talk about her. Holland Hanley had so many great drives and approaches, but her putt in the final round was just struggling so much. She had so many missed birdie putts that she definitely could have made podium. And depending on how many of those birdie putts she could have made, she might have given Owen a run for her money. But in 6th place, Jennifer Allen at -12, Maria Oliva in 7th at -9, Sarah Hokum in 8th at -7, and 9th place, Haley King at -6. And then tied for 10th, we had Jessica Weiss and Alexis Mandujano at -3. So overall, a great weekend of disc golf. Great weekend. And the next couple of weeks are going to be pretty good, everybody. We do have a Silver Series coming up this weekend, the Rochester Flying Open in New York. If you saw, a lot of players went to Niagara Falls the last day or so. And so they're getting into New York, Vermont. Smuggler's Notch Worlds is in 2 weeks. I am so excited for Worlds. It's going to be great. I don't have any insight into the Rochester Flying Open. It might be the first time on tour. I'm not super sure. I didn't look it up. Because I'm just focused on Worlds. And so I'm super excited about that. But that is all I have for you guys today. I hope talking about the Champcap Solo intrigued you and maybe piqued your interest into this new putting tool that I've really enjoyed a lot. Don't forget, if you haven't already, go and order a Maui Strong shirt to support those in need who have suffered great devastation from the wildfires. And we also covered the Innova Alien, a really unique disc that I think is a fun disc to throw. I just don't know how many people are actually going to bag it regularly. And then we recapped DGLO and previewed basically very quickly Rochester by saying it's happening. And then Worlds, more importantly, is in 2 weeks. And so I'm very excited for that. Well, that is all I have for you today, everyone. Make sure you go out and you play some disc golf with people who have never played before. Teach someone new. I'm playing with the Josiah and Jared. I mentioned them on last week's episode. We're playing again tomorrow. I am so excited. It's going to be a great time. Make sure you teach someone how to play disc golf. Be an encouragement to them. Make sure you play disc golf this weekend and enjoy the hot but beautiful weather if you're in the southeast region that we've been experiencing. But get out there, have fun, and most importantly, have a great round.